Welcome to a place where history breathes, where every stone, every corner, every whisper of wind carries stories older than empires themselves. You've clicked on this video because somewhere deep inside, you sense that there is more to a city than just streets and buildings, that some places are etched into the soul of a people, a civilization, a faith. Today we are going to journey into one of the most sacred cities in human history, a city whose very name evokes awe, devotion, conflict, and an unbroken chain of memory, Jerusalem. Before we dive deep, this channel is dedicated to exploring history, culture, and the hidden stories behind the places and events that shape our world. We uncover layers that textbooks often leave untouched, and we invite you to see the world through the eyes of those who lived, struggled, and believed here centuries before us. So make yourself comfortable, because what you are about to hear isn't just a story. It's a journey into the heart of faith, identity, and an undying connection that spans thousands of years. Jerusalem is not just a city. For Jews, it is the heart of their spiritual, cultural, and historical existence. But why? Why has the city, perched atop hills and surrounded by rugged landscapes, captured the hearts, prayers, and imaginations of Jews across centuries and continents? To understand, we must travel back thousands of years, to a time when the foundations of Jewish belief, identity, and collective memory were being laid. Long before the grand cities of the modern world, long before empires rose and fell, Jerusalem stood as a humble settlement, a small hilltop town in the land of Canaan. Yet it would become a beacon, a spiritual center, and the eternal city of the Jewish people. The roots of its importance stretch deep into the Hebrew Bible, into stories that define morality, purpose, and a people's covenant with their God. The city is first mentioned in the Torah as a place of profound significance, where kings would rise, prophets would preach, and divine promises would echo through the generations. For Jews, Jerusalem is inseparable from the concept of the temple, the Holy Temple, the Beit HaMikdash, built initially by King Solomon in the 10th century BCE. This was not merely a building. It was the dwelling place of God's presence on earth, the spiritual heart, where heaven and earth met. Every Jewish festival, every ritual, every prayer in the ancient world was oriented around the temple. It was where sacrifices were offered, where sins were atoned for, and where the deepest connections between humanity and divinity were celebrated. The temple symbolized a covenant, a promise that the Jewish people were chosen to uphold, a center that bound them together, even in exile. And yet, Jerusalem's significance is not only religious, it is historical, psychological, and cultural. It is the city where King David established his throne, the city he conquered and called the City of David. David was not just a king, he was a unifier, a symbol of resilience, courage, and faith. Under his reign, Jerusalem became the political and spiritual capital, a city whose fate would mirror the trials and triumphs of the Jewish people themselves. The memory of David, and later his son Solomon, remains imprinted in Jewish consciousness, shaping prayers, rituals, and an unbroken hope for restoration. When we look at Jewish prayer today, we see Jerusalem woven into every word, every gesture, every longing. From the moment a Jewish child learns to pray, they are taught to face Jerusalem, to pray for the rebuilding of the temple, and to remember the city as a source of eternal connection. During festivals from Passover to Sukkot, Jerusalem is invoked again and again, a symbol of unity, faith, and spiritual fulfillment. Every prayer, even those recited thousands of miles away in distant lands, carries the city's name as a beacon of hope and a reminder of a shared destiny. The heartbreak of exile only deepened this bond. Throughout centuries of dispersion, when Jewish communities were forced to leave their homes, from Babylonia to Spain, from Eastern Europe to North Africa, the memory of Jerusalem became the thread that held them together. The psalms, the prayers, the songs, all echo a longing to return, to see the city rebuilt, to walk its sacred streets once more. Jerusalem was no longer just a physical place. It had become a symbol of endurance, of faith tested through hardship, a city of memory that lived in the hearts of the people wherever they went. It is important to understand that Jerusalem's significance is multi-layered. Religiously, it represents the presence of God, the center of spiritual life, and the location of sacred history. Politically, it symbolizes sovereignty, leadership, and nationhood. Emotionally and psychologically, It embodies the collective memory, resilience, and hope of a people who survived exile, persecution, and countless trials, yet never let go of their bond with the city. It is a city that has been destroyed, rebuilt, conquered, and liberated multiple times, yet it remains eternal in Jewish consciousness. Even in modern times, Jerusalem retains this sacred resonance. The city is the focal point of Jewish identity, national aspiration, and spiritual yearning. When the Jewish state of Israel was established in 1948, and particularly after the reunification of Jerusalem in 1967, the city became a symbol of continuity, survival, and fulfillment of an ancient promise. It is a city where prayers are no longer only whispered in memory, but spoken aloud, in streets once walked by prophets and kings. Synagogues, study halls, and the Western Wall, the remnant of the Second Temple, stand as living testaments to a faith that has endured millennia. Jerusalem's importance also extends to its role in shaping Jewish ethics, law, and culture. The city is where the Sanhedrin, the highest court of Jewish law, once sat. It is where sages debated, scholars taught, and traditions were formed that continue to guide Jewish life today. The streets, walls, and stones themselves tell stories of justice, wisdom, and moral guidance, providing an enduring model for communities scattered across the world. But to truly understand why Jerusalem is so vital for Jews, one must feel the emotional gravity it carries. It is a city of prayer, of tears, of hope and longing. Imagine generations of Jews, exiled and wandering, closing their eyes and imagining the golden gates of Jerusalem, the courtyard of the temple, the sound of prayers rising to the heavens. That longing, called in Hebrew, Yerushalayim shel Zahav, Jerusalem of gold, is not just nostalgia. It is a thread connecting past, present, and future. It is an unbroken promise of belonging, identity, and spiritual destiny. Even beyond religion, Jerusalem embodies a collective story of human resilience. Its streets have witnessed triumph and tragedy, love and betrayal, faith and doubt. Every stone has a story, every wall a memory. For Jews, to speak of Jerusalem is to speak of survival against all odds, of a people who never forgot where they came from and what they stood for. It is a city that defines the very essence of being Jewish, encompassing history, identity, spirituality, and aspiration in a single, profound narrative. Jerusalem also serves as a mirror to the human soul. Its hills, valleys, and walls reflect our deepest fears and highest hopes. Its history reminds us that life is fragile, that exile and return are part of our collective human journey, and that faith, memory, and identity are not bound by geography alone, but by a shared story that transcends time. For Jews, every visit to the city, every prayer uttered facing its direction, every mention in scripture and song, is an affirmation of a covenant older than nations themselves. To understand Jerusalem is to understand the Jewish experience as a whole, a journey of faith, perseverance, and unyielding connection to something greater than oneself. It is a city where history is not confined to books or ruins, but lives and breathes in the prayers, rituals, and hearts of people who, despite every challenge, have kept the memory and significance of the city alive. Even in moments of conflict and uncertainty, Jerusalem remains central. It is a city that has endured sieges, wars, and political upheavals, yet it continues to be a beacon of identity and hope. For Jews, it is not just about land or politics. It is about belonging, continuity, and a promise that stretches back millennia. A promise that no force, no matter how powerful, can erase. And perhaps most profoundly, Jerusalem represents the idea that some places in the world are more than just physical locations. They are symbols, repositories of memory, faith, and identity. They are places where the human experience and the divine converge, where stories of courage, wisdom, and devotion echo across centuries, calling each generation to remember, to honor, and to hope. In every corner of the globe, Jews carry Jerusalem in their hearts. From the quiet prayers whispered in distant lands to the festive celebrations on Jewish holidays, the city is never far from thought, memory, or longing. It is a city of gold, yes, but also a city of tears, prayers, and dreams. It is eternal, not because of walls or stones, but because it lives in the hearts and souls of those who hold it dear. So why is Jerusalem important for Jews? Because it is the living embodiment of faith, history, resilience, and identity. It is the place where their spiritual journey begins and never ends. It is a city that has witnessed the rise and fall of kings, the devotion of prophets, and the unwavering hope of a people determined to remember, to honor, and to continue. It is not just a city. It is a story, a covenant, and a promise. A promise that for thousands of years has defined who they are and what they stand for. As we reflect on the significance of Jerusalem, it becomes clear that the city's power lies not only in its stones, gates, and temples, but in the hearts and minds of the people who revere it. It is a city that teaches lessons of perseverance, faith, and connection. It reminds us that some places are eternal, not because of grandeur or might, but because they embody the enduring spirit of humanity itself. Jerusalem is, and will always be, a city of memory, of faith, and of hope. For Jews, it is the center of their past, the inspiration of their present, and the beacon guiding their future. To walk through its streets, to pray at its sacred sites, to remember its history, is to step into a living story that stretches across millennia. A story that continues to shape lives, identities, and dreams to this very day. And so, as we conclude this journey, let us remember that Jerusalem is more than a city. It is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, the power of faith, and the enduring connection between a people and their sacred home. For Jews, Jerusalem is the heart of a promise, a symbol of hope, and the eternal center of their identity, their prayers, and their soul.